So hello YouTube, welcome to this episode of the Yoga Lawyer Show. I almost mispronounced it again. It's her fault that I can't pronounce the name of the show. We thought today we'd talk a little bit about the special counsel appointment and just the law behind how that happens, because I'm a lawyer, Katie is soon to be law student. She's a baby lawyer, and that's what we can offer is some of the legal insight into these things. So this kind of arises because I've seen some posts recently and some just talk about how the special counsel is a witch hunt. We heard about this. We actually talked about this a little bit last week, how President Trump has come out and called it that. And I think the central allegation goes to the reason people think it's a witch hunt is they say, this special counsel was appointed just to investigate whether there was collusion between President Trump's campaign and Russia, and now it's turned into more than that. So I wanted to take a step back and first of all say, no, that's not why the special counsel was appointed. It was not specifically appointed to see if there was collusion with Trump and Russia. And I have the actual order that appointed the special counsel. Now that was one of the issues, but there's much broader authority that the special counsel has. And so let me just look at it. We can post this too. Maybe we even put it up on the screen. Use some. Use our special technology. But the special counsel actually has authority to, let's read right here. So from the order, the special counsel is authorized to conduct the investigation confirmed by then FBI Director James Comey in testimony before the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence on March 20th, 2017. So it's to continue to conduct that investigation that was begun at that time, including any links and or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the campaign of President Trump, and any matters that arose or may arise directly from the investigation, and any other matters within the scope of a certain federal statute, 28 CFR section 600.4a, which we'll get to in a second. And then it goes on to say under section C, if the special counsel believes it's necessary and appropriate, the special counsel is authorized to prosecute federal crimes arising from the investigation of these matters. So the fact that the special counsel has now or appears to be investigating federal crimes, maybe that's what the raid on Cohen's office was about. That's not outside of the special counsel's authority. That's actually specifically within the special counsel's authority, and the special counsel would not be doing his job if he weren't investigating those matters.
And beyond that, just like baseline, it's good that they have that in writing, but if you're conducting an investigation on somebody, say there's another person and you're investigating a murder that they were attached to, and while you're investigating this murder, you find that they also did some other crime. So they were also stealing or
committed battery or something.
You're not going to be like, okay, well, we're not worried about that right now.
We're only focused on the murder, so we can't charge them with other crimes.
If you're going to that's kind of a duty for an investigator to at least report that that's something that happened.
Yeah.
Which, Mueller's not, like we're talking about this, and there's like a little bit of a misunderstanding where Mueller, they're investigating, so there is no trial yet. So right now what they're doing is collecting information, and I don't think that there should be some boundaries that they are within, as long as they're within the boundaries of the law.
Yeah, what the authority granted to the special counsel.
Yeah, then there shouldn't be some boundary where they only have to focus on some certain specific topic that they were originally created to pursue.
And that's not even exactly why they were created. That was part of it, and that may have been the impetus for it. But this is the order that creates a special counsel, and it specifically gives the special counsel the authority to investigate all federal crimes that may arise during the investigation.
But that argument is still, how can somebody argue that they should?
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make, because like honestly, it sounds like what people are saying is, they think that if President Trump or those associated with him have committed federal crimes, that's okay because we're
not investigating.
We're not investigating that. It's like, no, it's not okay for the president or those associated with him to commit federal crimes.
And you wouldn't say that, like for my example, if you were investigating a murder and you found that the person you were investigating committed all of these terrible crimes, you wouldn't be like, okay, but no, that's okay because we're not investigating that. You would be like, no, this person committed these crimes, they should be held liable.
Yes, for those too. It's not a witch hunt because we're also looking at whether these other crimes were committed. And I don't understand the logic completely behind that theory that it's a witch hunt. Because if President Trump and those associated with him haven't committed any federal crimes, and they have nothing to worry about. It's not like the special counsel can come up with these allegations out of thin air. It will not hold up in court. They can't make up charges. They can't make up a full-on, like, they can't hold him accountable and try him for something and have him found guilty for a crime that he didn't commit. The only way that's going to happen is if he actually committed the crime. And maybe that's just my belief in the justice system, but the justice system works. I've committed my life to the justice system as an attorney, and it doesn't happen that way. You can't, like, make up something.
Yeah,
there has to be evidence.
That's not my favorite argument for having the investigation, that, like, we should investigate him, and if he has nothing to hide, he has nothing to worry about. Like, you should be able to present evidence on your side. I mean, it's not that he should just sit down and let people walk all over him. No. That's not what we're saying. But yeah, logically, if he has nothing to hide, then he shouldn't be so worried about the investigation. He should just let it run its course, let Mueller do his job, and just
what's happening is it makes him appear guilty, honestly. Like, the fact that he's so anti, it like raises into question whether there's some guilt there. But, the other side of that we wanted to talk a little bit about is that, let's say, President Trump has committed some kind of federal crime, and or that he gets impeached eventually. Does that solve the problem? Does that solve the crisis in the American democracy? And we don't think so. I think it could make things worse, honestly.
First, can we all admit that there is a crisis of democracy? Is there a democratic deficit happening in America?
Yeah. I mean, would you admit it? Because I would admit it.
I would admit it.
I mean, just like what we talked about last week with the rule of law in our country and how it's being undermined.
Because there's a lack of education. There's a lack of... I was talking to somebody about this epidemic of laziness where people don't want to know. They don't want to take the time to go figure out what's actually happening. They just let it happen. And that's how things like this happen, where presidents who are not qualified get the job. And it's because we haven't taken the time to go educate ourselves. I don't know.
No, I hear what you're saying.
That leads to a lack of democracy.
Well, and that's sort of this whole thing. So you have people, on social media and on the news saying things like, this is a witch hunt because this investigation was only about colluding with Russia. They don't do their homework and actually, go on. It's pretty easy to find the order that appoints a special counsel or even the statutes that create the special counsel. And
Google.
It's called the Google. Look it up. I think the problem is this inherent human tendency that we have to pick sides. And so if Trump's on our team, then any evidence that maybe he's not who we thought he was, we want to just discount and throw away and blame on the other side, because it makes us feel bad if we were wrong. And we've got to let go of that on both sides, because on the other side, they shouldn't be blaming Trump for everything. And also they shouldn't be thinking that getting him out of office will somehow be this, saving grace and will fix the whole problem. The problem is the polarization of America.
We were talking about polarization, and I study political science. That's my major. And I don't think polarization is a problem. I think that you should have your opposition and you should have different opinions that don't always agree with you. I think the problem comes into effect when your polarization is fueled by this opposition that requires your opponent to be a thing. So what we were talking about is the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, they kind of describe themselves in what they're not. So a Republican would say, I'm this and this and this because I'm not this and this and this, which is Democratic.
Yeah, like I'm not a liberal, blah blah blah. I'm not a all the negative terms that they use to describe the Democratic Party. They're not that. So they define themselves in terms of what they're not. And the other side does the same thing. The Democrats do the same thing about the Republicans.
And it makes us wonder if the party would survive if its opposite was gone.
I don't think it would. I think that the two parties need each other to exist, because if there weren't two parties, then there would be nothing to compare each other to. We'd just be people with independent thoughts, and we could pick what we wanted about certain issues after being well informed.
And you can see that when you ask somebody, well, why do you believe that? Like, why is that what you support? And they don't have an answer. And it's because why they support it is because the other side doesn't support it. So they have to pick the side. So if you're a Republican and you support, or you're anti-abortion, you might not be anti-abortion in the sense that the Republican Party supports. That's a really bad one, but it's like the first one that popped into my head. But you might just be anti-abortion because Democrats are pro-abortion and you're not a Democrat. But you might, you pick your side based on your party. for instance, my grandma last night was talking about the midterm elections that are coming up in November, and she was talking about doing research on the candidates. She was like, well, I haven't looked to see what party they're from. And I was like, Grandma, that does not matter. It really doesn't. Because we have Republicans who are barely Republican, and we have Democrats who are barely Democrat. You need to look at what they support, and I think
what they've done, the actions they've taken, not just the words they've said.
So it comes back to like a lack of education and a laziness where you don't want to look into what you believe or what your party believes. You just know that you're not the other party.
And we feel comfortable picking sides. This goes back to, I know we've talked about this in other videos, and it goes back to just my whole, yogic beliefs about reality, and that we like to think of ourselves as separate individuals, and it's us versus them. So that's why, we develop hatred or animosity towards people that are not like us, rather than looking inward and exploring the shadow parts of our own self and becoming fully integrated humans, where then we maybe wouldn't need a bad guy to blame everything on, or a good guy to project all of our goodness onto. If we could really look inward and become more whole humans, then a lot of these issues wouldn't exist.
We probably wouldn't need civil rights legislation.
Yeah, and maybe not. But that's that's a video for another time. We're getting very deep. Yeah,
you got deep, and then
I got deep.
I was like, we should talk about racism.
Yeah, maybe at another time. But I just feel like the two-party system is a lot to blame for this. But it's a symptom of what we are experiencing as humans and the suffering that we experience because we haven't fully integrated our darkness. So that's a pretty deep thought to leave it on. Is there anything else for today?
Boy, we are dark.
But as always, we'd love to hear feedback. This is a bit of an echo chamber, but we'd love to hear other thoughts.
But we kind of always agree with each other.
Pretty much. But we like to hear from opposing viewpoints, and
we do get comments sometimes.
We do, and opposing comments are my favorite.
Yeah,
because that's how we learn too. And then we have to stretch outside of the box that we live in and go, well, maybe this has some credence, let me look into it and explore it. And that's what we should all be doing, not just so stuck in the box of our ideas where we're not willing to look outside of it, or that we're
too lazy.
Yeah, well, I think it's partly because we feel personally affronted if we're wrong.
That
so be willing to be wrong, and be willing to let that go and
work
be like,
on
wow,
admitting that
I was
you're
wrong.
Yeah.
It's okay when that happens. So I think we've already closed up a couple times. But as always, subscribe. We're up to 117 or 118 subscribers, so we're skyrocketing.
We're famous.
Make sure to subscribe, leave comments, leave feedback, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching the Yoga Lawyer video.